and welcome to the Groovie Bunch, the UK's independent variety TV show. Yes, I'm your host, Thomas W. Kelly. Now, I watched some Australian TV recently and I was like, no, Rupert Murdoch, I don't need you to lie to me. That's what YouTube is for. So tonight we have a hilarious couple of comedians and a special guest to talk about the buzz at sober events. We've got Rabiah Coon, the Californian comedian and podcaster, a woman that can make you chuckle and talk business. We've got Chris Ford, a comedian described as your gay best friend, fresh from Edinburgh Fringe and noted as a finalist in many London competitions. Hey! And we've got Kyle Hall, the founder of the Energy Exchange, inviting you to participate in a creative community by sharing his fascinating personal story to recovery. Well, before they come on, let's get some What the Cluck action. Hey, and welcome to What the Cluck. No, I'm not in recovery from being a hipster. I'm just from depression. So, same thing, less broken cassettes. Yeah. I think of depression as a bit like penis size, you know. Some have it shorter, others have it longer. Ding dong. But it's not about how big your depression is. It's about how long you can maintain it in a crowded room, you know, of people who want your hard, throbbing emotions. Andrew Dick. So yeah, I recently hosted a fundraiser for World Suicide Prevention Day. Now, suicide is understandably a very sensitive topic and, you know, one that we should have way less shame about and encourage more conversation, because suicide is something which is everyone's business and we've all got the ability to ask the question. But it's still one of the top 3 most awkward questions to ask, like at a bus stop, you know. Do you feel suicidal, or do you just genuinely like Enya? Are you pregnant, or does the security tag attached to that robot dog just look like a belly button? Can't really tell. Or did you vote for Nigel Farage, or do you just hate the working class? Yes, sadly, the thought and act of suicide is something that touches every person's life. Very much like Facebook and water-based lubricant. I'm watching you, millennials. Keep your hands above the table. So now we turn to the United Kingdom, a nation whose main export is pretending that we're relevant. A nation which uses the unicorn on its coat of arms, you know. An animal just as real as the British Museum's intention to return its stolen artefacts. Yes. Oh, where did we get this priceless collection of African artefacts? No, we found them. Just, yes, near Stonehenge. Oh, and this, these ancient statues. This paper says legal sale. 1824, donated by anonymous priest in Burma. Yes. Acquired on thiefbay.com. The UK government recently passed a new law banning junk food advertising to children, both on television and online. It's official. The government cares more about you kids than you do. But, you know, what next? London air not smelling like the inside of a bong anymore. Big brother knows best. But, you know, how are the kids going to feel about these new laws? No, little Timmy, the government says no more sweets for you. Oh, poppycock, why can't you be like other daddies and work 2 jobs so I can watch advertisements for junk food after 9 p.m? Yes, we're awfully privileged, it's true. But not to worry, I'll send you to boarding school and then you won't see me shout at mummy. Oh, yay! And then I'll send you to boarding school and with all the isolation and the, you know, the pressure, you'll develop an eating problem in no time. Thank you, Daddy. You won't remember this when you're elderly. Now, these laws start in 2025, and we are going to see some freak of nature products slipping through the gates of hell. Insert hilarious joke. Now, advertisers will be allowed to promote products for weight control, meal replacement, Al-Qaeda pick and mix, you know, because if the Home Office needs to earn An honest day's wage for an honest day's surveillance, damn it. Now, I've got to pay my bills too, so I'm pitching some ideas to junk food manufacturers. Okay, dig it. So, what about Little Lifters Protein Shake? Why build sandcastles when you can build insecurities? Or Brain Blasties. Get rid of that 2 p.m. academic slump with a familiar flavor, apple Adderall. Or lastly, my favorite, Slim Pops, the weight loss lollipop to suppress your appetite and your innocence. Tastes like cherry tween shame. It's starvalicious. Well, whether it's junk food, colonialism, or depression, it's just like they say in the gay bars of Soho. Don't vote with your wallet, vote with what you swallow. That's it for What the Cluck this week. Let's get on with the show. And now I'm very pleased to bring on a comedian from California. She's toured with her gigging all across America and the UK. And now she's here tonight, also the host of the podcast More Than Work. Please welcome Rabiah Coon.
All right, thanks so much. And as Thomas mentioned, I am from California, though I've lived in London for almost 5 years. And being in London, a lot of people ask me, Rabiah, are you from? And usually there's a fill in the blank there. They pick a country. Oftentimes it's Canada. And honestly, I just say, yeah, I'm from Canada. I feel like Canada, is just north of California anyway, so it's not really that much of a lie. And quite frankly, I just want to be liked, So that's why I say that. I did find it pretty easy, though, to move from the U.S. to the U.K. because my family is also very passive-aggressive. And if someone out there didn't laugh, you're probably being passive-aggressive right now. Just proving my point, I do like the healthcare system in the U.K. better than in the U.S. I find that it's nice not being upsold on services when I go to the GP. When I was back home in California, I was having an asthma attack. I was having trouble breathing, and I got put on a breathing treatment. And then the next thing the nurse did was go through my information, get to my age, freak out, and ask, do you want Botox while you're here? I mean, come on. I am 68 now, and look at me. So it wasn't bad advice. No, but really, they do. They try to upsell you on services at the GP in the States. In the UK, well, sometimes it's hard to get the services, but that's someone like me can't vote yet, but as soon as I can, I'm going to help vote to change that, I do find, too, that, the communication style is a little more kind in the UK than in the US. So, for example, I got a letter from my GP saying, you may want to, so it's polite, it's a suggestion, you may want to reduce your calorie intake and increase physical activity. And honestly, a letter like that in the States would have looked more like a ransom note with the letters cut out, and it would have just said, eat less, exercise more, or you'll die. That would have been the vibe. But it was just suggesting that maybe I look at my weight and consider a healthier lifestyle. And I don't disagree. I weighed myself recently, and over the last 3 years, I'm down 14 stone. Of course, that's just due to a breakup, but still, that was dead weight I didn't need, Then I did look at some diets, though. I was trying some diets. I thought, let me see what's popular. Let me see what I should be doing. So I tried intermittent fasting. Now, that sounded pretty easy. I know what the words intermittent and fasting mean, and I'm confident that I know what those mean. But it's not what I'm doing right now, which is just not eating for 10 minutes, and then I can go back to eating as much as I want, It's actually not eating for 12 to 14 hours at a time. It's like a diet cultural appropriation of Ramadan, quite honestly. And yeah, and it's hard to do. And I'm not scared of going to hell, so I'm not going to actually do it. I was going to do keto. Keto sounded like a good idea. It's like it's scientific. It sounds scientific. It's a real word, supposedly. So I was going to do keto. But I did some research, and it was like the Atkins diet, which was really bad for you in the 90s. And so I just realized it's kind of a rebrand, like Kanye changing his name to Ye. I mean, if I'm being really relevant today, it's like P. Diddy changing his name to anything. There's still a problem with them. Now, there's the gluten-free diet. I actually do the gluten-free diet. I don't consider it a diet. I don't consider it a lifestyle. I just consider it medically necessary because I have celiac disease. And people don't think it's real, but they don't question peanut allergy people, do they? Not because of what happens right in front of them, but me, it'll happen later. So no one questions it. But I do the gluten-free thing. It bothers the people I eat with more than it bothers me. And the thing is, it's tricky because you have to do things like not eat bread or pasta or cocaine. I mean, And I know cocaine's not a recommended part of any diet, but it's certainly not a recommended part of a diet for a celiac because it could be cut with other dangerous drugs or all-purpose flour. And that's tough. I considered being vegan. I think it's really great when people are protecting animals and the environment, but also, I'll be honest with you, I choked on brisket once. And I thought tofu would have broken down a lot easier, So the thing is, though, I actually did. I choked on the brisket. I live alone. Now, that's not an advertisement for someone. That's just a fact. And so what I had to do was give myself the Heimlich maneuver. It's hard enough to give someone else the Heimlich maneuver, but I had to give it to myself. I actually slammed myself into my kitchen counter and expelled the meat out of my throat, which is not something I normally say, at least not on the dating apps. But I did. And now, every time I look for a flat, I have to look for certain things, including a Heimlich high counter. It's awful. So a little bit more about me. My name is Rabiah Coon. So Rabiah, my first name is Arabic. I'm actually half Lebanese. And since I'm from America, I did the 23andMe DNA test because we want to find out where we're from before we deny it and say we're American. And so I know I'm half Lebanese and half German. That's the exterior you're seeing, which means I'm white on the census, but not at the airport. Ooh. That's what that means. I know, it's a rough one, but the thing is, the first person who did second base with me was Rick, an airport security agent, just kind of seeing what I had on me. Maybe third base, to be honest. Maybe. It's interesting to have a name like Rabiah because it's often mispronounced, like Rabiah, Rabiah, Ribena, different things like that. At Starbucks, I'll hear, Rabbi, your latte's ready. And I'm like, oh, that's me. Shalom. People also, they'll hear Rabiah and they think, oh, that's Arabic. And if they speak Arabic, they'll speak to me in Arabic. And I don't mind, except for I can't really say much back other than Habibi. And if you don't know what that means like my love or I love you. And so I have a problem right now. It's at a restaurant called the Falafel King. The guy didn't get my order correct, but I think we're engaged now. Because I was just like Habibi, and I walked away. Then you have my last name. My last name is Coon. It's C-O-O-N. So Rabiah Coon. It's a very unique name because it's both ethnic and racist at the same time. Mm-hmm. I know. I'm trying to change it. So I'm online dating. Some people, they're looking for a casual relationship. I'm looking for a casual marriage by which I can change my surname. I'm on all the apps, too. It's kind of tough on the apps. I get kicked off a lot of them, or I just don't find matches. I joined one recently. I did this test online to see what I'm into sexually, and it was kind of an interesting test. The result was like worship kink, 75%. I thought, where do I go with this? Who worships better than anyone? So I joined Christian Mingle. Unfortunately, they already have a guy, and they don't want to change that. So I just left that one. I do think that some of the apps, so they do suggest things for you to try to be helpful. Like when I run out of matches, the app will say like, you're out of matches. You should expand your filters. Or what I like to think of as lowering my standards. So I do. I had the app set to smokes occasionally, thinking, I don't really want anyone who smokes, but I can handle it sometimes. It turns out in London, anyone who smokes occasionally only smokes when they drink. And there are a lot of alcoholics. So now I'm just dating smokers. And then I had the distance set to within 5 miles. Now it's just set to anywhere. I even up to my LinkedIn, it says willing to relocate. Now, I was looking at different age ranges thinking I used to have daddy issues and date older guys, but maybe I want to lower it to my age because now if I date older guys, and I'm actually 45, if I date older guys, it looks like ending up in A&E at the end of the night sometimes. But I did start dating an older guy recently. He's 57. Now I'm 45. I was uncomfortable with the age gap until I did this test at the gym. It was called, like, find out your real age, your biological age. Good news. And this came as a recommendation from my doctor who told me to lose weight. I did this test. The good news is, it turns out I'm 60. So I'm still a cougar. I can date the 57-year-old, and he's younger than me. Anyway, thanks so much for letting me be here. I've been Rabiah Coon.
Rabiah, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's all. It's been a lot of fun to be here so far. Thank you.
You smashed that.
Thanks.
Loved it. So I want to know a little bit about the differences and similarities between US and UK. So like you've toured over the US and you lived here for a while as well. What are like the similarities and what do you find different between like the comedy cultures?
Yeah. So I think one thing that's interesting, I mean, I wasn't in the U.S. that long doing comedy before I moved over here, pretty young in my career. I'm still pretty young in my career, I guess, but what I noticed is just the organization, maybe. So a lot of things are pre-signed. You sign up ahead of time here for gigs. And in the States, it's more like show up an hour or 2 or 3 early, sign up, maybe you'll get on if they draw your name, that kind of thing. And then as far as audiences go... Well, actually, I'll add one more thing. In the U.S., there's a lot of pay-to-play. That's not as popular over here. Okay. The bringer thing, where we have to bring people to perform, that's more popular, I'd say, or unpopular, depending on if you're talking to a comic. We don't think it's the best, but but I'd say the audience-wise, I mean, I've got a pretty dry sense of humor, and so that's good for over here. Okay. I would say in the U.S. It's not necessarily always the best, although people get it, you know. They understand it. Okay. But I think to the audiences, I mean, just in my experience, I feel like if you're at a proper place with an audience, they're going to pay more attention, like, over here sometimes than over there. But I notice that at concerts, too, or anywhere, you know, any kind of event. So,
yeah. That's interesting about the pay-to-play thing. I think it's not the first person I had mentioned that, but I forgot. Because, like, over here we do the typically British thing where we don't tell you that you're going to get, like, charged. we just shame you at the door.
Exactly. Sometimes shame acts at the door, too, which is weird. Because it's like, I performed. Why? I wouldn't have paid to see me. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I would pay to see me, but I wouldn't normally pay to do my job. Like, I don't go to work every day and pay them. You know, it's just not something I do. It's not a good way to make money for me. But yeah, it's true. Like I did one gig in New York City, and I was super excited to get on. Yeah. But slowly, the guy leaked information like, "Oh, if you should bring 2 people." Okay. Now it's like if you bring 6 people, you get 4 more minutes, and then you find out it costs $25 a head plus a 2-drink minimum. So everyone's paying $50, and it's like a night out, like $50 each for a night out, that just to see your friend do 7 minutes of comedy. That was really rough. So
I mean, I'm expecting extras for all this effort.
Yeah, something, or at least like a chicken wing or something.
Chicken wing, at least a basement to get lost in.
Yeah. And here you can enter basements for free. It's great. So that's one thing about the UK. We have plenty of basements for free.
Lots of that. Yeah, I like the comedy culture here in London. There's a lot of basements. How do you find that then, in comparison, like touring around London?
Just going around London. I mean, yeah, it's cool because sometimes you get to do these venues like the Museum of Comedy. There's a contest that takes place there, so a lot of new acts can end up doing that. I've been on the stage at Backyard Comedy before, and up the creek, and it's like kind of more, I'd say, legendary venues. And then you do venues that are just you go into a pub and you go into the basement. But if the environment, like the promoter sets it up right, like there's shtick comedy, that's a fun one. Comedy in Your Eye, there's different ones, top and bottom comedy. There's all these comedy places where they've set up a really super environment for the acts and for the audience. And so it's almost like venue agnostic in a way because you're just with this really supportive group of people. Ooh. And that's really fun.
Venue agnostic.
But yeah. But then like Angel, like it's super fun. Like I got to do the Bill Murray twice now, and that's amazing to be on that stage. But the Raw Night's fun too. So I think it doesn't matter what the venue is necessarily if the promoter or whoever the organizer is has set it up to be for comedy and set it up to be a nice night for you. Yeah,
it is a distinct difference for when they do it for comedy or when you're just like standing next to a pool table with the football on behind you.
That's not fun.
And they're like, okay, mate, be funny.
Yeah, and you're like, the only thing I could possibly do is maybe fall off this table. That'd be funny.
Yeah. Or leave the door and laugh at myself. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had a few gigs like this, and I'm like, thank you, London Bridge, never again. So, I'm really interested to ask about how was the Edinburgh Fringe for you?
Man, the Fringe is intense because, so here we'll do I'll do between 2 and 4 gigs a week. That's generally what I do. In Edinburgh, it's like 31 gigs over 2 weeks or something, right?
Wow.
And so you just, like, I was doing a split bill for a little while, and that was fun. So I got a long, like, 20-minute set, and then I would do everything from 5 to 10, though. And you have all different audiences, different themes for shows, so you can try out different material. Yeah. It's amazing. And then also just seeing friends walking around or getting to celebrate, like, how things are going or be supportive if they need support and all that. And just seeing what an awesome community comedy can be is cool. And then just seeing people do shows, too. I saw some shows where I was just, like, blown away. And it's people you work with for 5 minutes at a time, and you see them do these amazing things. So it was really cool.
It's a very uplifting environment.
Yeah.
I caught 4 days of it. I was like, damn, why only 4 days, Thomas?
I know. But then you also got out before you had the breakdown.
I guess there's a dip in the middle, and then you rise into psychosis.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
So what was your show called?
So I did a split bill called Not Normal, and I did a split bill the last 2 years, too, called Nice Try, and I might go back to that name, but it just depends on, like, who you're working with and stuff. And yeah, it was just fun. It was just like a longer set, really. I was working on a club set more than anything, more than the story, the dramatic. 80% into the show, have some dramatic thing and leave it. But
Cliffhanger. Yeah. But I can tell you are looking battle hardened here on the stage. You really smashed that. But there was something I was really curious about. So this show is going to air in like October, November.
Yeah.
What you got going on later this year? Where can we see you?
So I know, like, in October I'm doing the quarterfinals of the Leicester Square New Comedian competition. So that's cool. And then I'm gonna go back to the States from mid-November till the end of the year, and I'm hoping to perform in a few cities. I performed in Portland, Oregon before, so I've already going to set something up there, and then I'm going to Minneapolis and to LA and to San Diego. So just to see family and friends and just reconnect with people.
Nice.
It's time. So yeah, I'll be doing that and then just doing some gigs. So I'm excited. So you can find anything on my website, though, rabiahsaid.com. But yeah.
Sick. See, I'm going back to Australia as well.
Nice.
But I haven't been there for 12 years.
Whoa.
So it's going to be like a weird experience.
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend I'm Ghost in the Shell and just like walk really slow motion down the high street. That's my plan, 100%. And I did want to ask you, because on your website I saw something which I found inspirational, but is that you're an ambassador for Shatterproof.
Right.
And since it is, September is like National Recovery Day, would you tell us a bit about what is Shatterproof? What kind of work do they do?
Yeah, so, well, and I do quite a bit of nonprofit work. I think one of my values, my core values, is service. So I think just going to encourage anybody, if you want to do something, give to your community or give to causes that are important to you. But so Shatterproof is, they work with with substance abuse disorder, basically, primarily opioid addiction and alcohol. And to be honest, and this is probably more serious than you get sometimes here, but I lost my brother to an accidental overdose 15 years ago. And out of that was a lot of grief, but eventually I saw this organization, Shatterproof, that was started by Gary Mandel. He founded it after he lost his son. And I felt like they were doing action. Yeah. They were doing things with legislation. They've changed things in the U.S. where there's a huge opioid epidemic. I'm grateful it's not here, honestly, because it's really awful. And so I just kind of found a place where I could give and help others because it's so important, and that's how I honor my brother. Yeah. So I just I'm not as involved with them as I used to be, just because I'm not in the States, but I still keep in touch, and if I hear about anyone in the States struggling, definitely put them in touch with resources. So yeah, thanks for asking about it. It's so important we talk about these things.
Yeah, and it's really important to be of service. And the people receiving the services, in years to come, when they go through the recovery and the chaos from their life lifts up, they'll be so grateful that people like you did that.
Thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that was fascinating to hear about your fantastic work with Shadowproof and your upcoming career emerging as one of Britain's very interesting talents.
Thank you.
Rabiah, thank you for coming on the show.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Oh yes, I can't wait to hear what this witty English comedian has got to say. He is the winner of the LGBTQI+ New Comedian of the Year. Winner this year. Did I say winner this year? This year, he's a winner. And you know what? He's everybody's best gay friend. So please welcome Chris Ford.
Hi, so I'm a queer comedian. I did actually used to be gay. It all got too mainstream for me, if I'm perfectly honest. And then when Philip Schofield joined, I was like, fuck this, no way, I'm off. Like, went in for the rebrand and come out as queer, and it has got so much more edge to it. It really has. I did have some homophobic abuse the other day, though. I don't mean to be reductive about it, but it was a little bit of homophobic abuse. But I feel we've moved on as a society, because my first response when I heard it was, oh my God, how retro. I was on my way to a 70s and 80s party, and I was like, oh, is this part of the immersive experience? Oh I love it. This bloke was like, you puff. I was like, Dad! It did take me by surprise, possibly because I don't think that my sexuality is that overtly obvious on a day-to-day basis. Right, the thing is, I can turn it on if I need something. Like, I can be really camp if I need something. Like attention. Or if I'm accidentally following a woman home at night and I want her to know that I'm not a threat. I'm like, hey girl, hey. Life is a cabaret, hey. That's not creepy at all, is it? No. We've integrated us gays since I came out 20 years ago. We've integrated so much that I get invited to the stag do's now. That is a shame. It's awful, it really is awful. I went on my cousin Darren's stag do 3 weeks ago, and the best man had organised for us to go to an escape room. Could you imagine? I had a panic attack. It was even worse when I got told, that's not an escape room, that's an all-bar one. Absolutely hideous. I'm from Essex originally, if you can't tell from the noise coming out of my face. I was brought up in a town in Essex that in 2004 was voted Britain's worst place to be gay. That's how horrible it was. Awful. And there are people actually living in Hull. Can you imagine? It was full of the type of people who call gays sissies, and I'd often think, well, I'd like to see you get drilled by Dom Top 69, and you can come back to me on that one. That is potentially just a kink that I've shared. On top of all that, I was brought up a very strict Jehovah's Witness. Any Jehovah's Witnesses in the studio? No, okay. There never is. There never is. Anywhere I go. They're never this side of the door, are they? Growing up a Jehovah's Witness, there was loads of stuff that was banned, like normal religious things that everyone knows about, but a few real niche things. So some examples of things that were banned. Yoga. Yoga was banned. Yeah. Apparently, it lets the devil inside you. I was like, oh my God, get him in me. Harry Potter was banned. Harry Potter was banned. My mum said, and this is in 2004, my mum said, J.K. Rowling is the devil's mouthpiece on earth, Christopher, which aged far better than I ever thought it was going to. How does she know? And Terra Masalata. My mum said it was a lesbian snack. Her words, not mine. Not mine. I used to have to knock on people's doors and tell them the good news of God's kingdom. Spoilers, it's not good. No, it's not good. I wasn't out at the time, but my sexuality was really quite obvious. I was the campest little preacher that you have ever seen. Honestly, I was knocking on my doors like, ding dong. We're just calling around in the area of the Watchtower Awake magazine. Oh my God, I love what you've done with this. gorgeous. By the way, God hates fags. Horrible Jehovah's Witnesses. Young unwed Jehovah's Witnesses of the opposite gender aren't allowed to be in the same room together lest they get overcome by a lustful desire. Now, I was a queer kid, so as you can imagine, it wasn't a massive problem for me. This is one of the reasons they get married really, really young, like 17, 18 years old. Now, although it wasn't a big problem for me, I will jump on a trend. I was married at 18 years old, and I had no idea what I was doing. The best way to describe it, I'd had no form of sex education. No, a lot of us were homeschooled, so I felt like a competition winner who lived in an 8th floor council flat, and on my wedding night, I had just won a jet ski. I had no idea what to do with it. I knew someone somewhere would love the jet ski, but I was never going to ride it. I didn't even know how to turn it on, to be honest. I got outed in the end. I got outed by Kylie Minogue. I was desperate to buy a copy of Attitude magazine, but on the front cover every month there was some sort of Adonis, and I was like, oh my God, I can't get caught with this. People will know I'm gay. Well, in April 2006, Her Royal Highness Kylie Minogue graced the front cover, and I thought, my opportunity. If I get caught with this, people will just think I'm the world's biggest Kylie Minogue fan. Okay, it was flawed. I got chucked out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I wanted to try all of the things that had been denied to me before: sex and drugs and blood transfusions. I wanted to do something meaningful with my life, so I trained to be a nurse, like a fool. I've worked in A&E for 15 years, so I'm not one of the nice ones, I'm afraid. No. Thing is, you do get hardened. A&E on a Saturday night is, well, the best way to describe it is a war zone. If everyone in the war zone was blackout drunk. And they come in, such amateurs will come in, 18 years old, on a trolley with their mates, covered in WKD, and you'll say, what happened? And they'll say, I don't know. And you'll say, well, do you want to just talk me through your night? And they say, well, she had 2 sambucas, a couple of tequilas, pint of lager, a woo-woo, a pina colada, a bottle of rosé, a lager, another pina colada. Well, what do you think could have possibly happened to your friend here? Well, we think she's been spiked. Has she? We get called angels. Nurses get called angels. We're not. We're the same as everyone else. We can be unkind. We can be stupid. I interviewed a nurse for a job in A&E, and genuinely, my question to her in the interview was, tell me a time when you have shown compassion. And she thought about it, and she said, 3 o'clock. An incredible answer. Gave her the job. Very good. The Archbishop of Canterbury in A&E referred to the psychiatric team. A little bit of hot gossip there for you, yeah. Because the triage nurse didn't believe he was the Archbishop of Canterbury. She thought he was a dementia patient. With delusions. I had to go and apologise to him, honestly. It was like the beginning of a really bad porno. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Bishop, for the naughty nurse. So I'm in therapy now. Of course I'm in therapy. I'm a nurse and a comedian. That's maximum people-pleasing. It does have its benefits being a people-pleaser. It means I'm very good at a gangbang. Just want everyone to have a lovely time, really. My therapist had told me I need to go out and make new friends. Go out and make new friends. It's very difficult to make new friends. I'm 42. It's easy when you're young because you've all got the same thing in common. Ketamine. But when you're 42... I've gone to some very dark places. Pottery making. Oh. Joined a gay running group. It was just me chasing 2 lesbians around Hyde Park. Looked like a hate crime. Nearly got arrested for that. I did get married a second time. I got married to a man. That worked out a little bit better. He's very different to me. Essentially, he's posh. I'm not. When he talks about the estate, he's talking about something very different to when I talk about the estate. He is different to me. He's very attractive. When people see us together, it's quite good for my ego, actually, because they just assume I'm really good in bed or I've got loads of money, and none of that's true. He's just got very low self-esteem. We actually met at yoga, which is cute, but is slightly annoying also, because it did prove my mum right about the yoga. Let the devil inside me. You've all been incredible. I've been Chris Ford, thank you.
Chris,
Hello.
you're a handsome fella. You're hilarious.
Thank you, it's very kind.
Yeah, we met each other in Edinburgh Fringe Festival just last month, and I saw you on stage with the Queer Comedy Club.
That's right, yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah, and you're smashing it then, you're smashing it now.
Thank
you. I've gotten to know your website a bit since then, and I noticed that you do a lot of like gong shows. So for the audiences who don't understand what a gong show is, tell us, what is it and what is it that you love about them so much?
Yeah, it's a love-hate, I suppose. I suppose maybe it's a form of self-harm. I don't know. I do quite like them. It's a big audience in established clubs, which is a really good thing. You can also test your material with people who aren't necessarily comedy fans or your mates, so it's a real good test audience. And there's something quite exhilarating about doing them if you can get through. I'm not like they're not for everyone, and I certainly have come away bruised before, but it's a good opportunity to get your foot in the door with some of the big clubs as well.
Yeah, is it as high tension as working like in A&E?
Yes, yeah. I think there obviously is something around the adrenaline that I'm quite drawn to. Yeah. I'm basically mad.
Yeah. I mean, I really admire that you're a nurse, and what I was curious about is what kind of perceptions do people have about a nurse that works in A&E that you could, I don't know, like dispel for us?
Okay, well, I feel like I've probably cemented the things that they think about nurses in A&E as opposed to dispel rumours. I always, like, nurses that work in A&E tend to be quite chaotic people. It does attract people of that nature because it is a chaotic environment. So there are a lot of nurses who work in A&E who quite have traits of ADHD, etc., because of the environment does lend itself to that. As opposed to somewhere like intensive care, which attracts maybe people that are who like organisation a lot more and silent and quiet, and more introverted environments. So it's interesting in nursing because you get different areas will attract different personality types, for sure.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. It makes you wonder if, like, what's that book that with all the mental health diagnoses inside of it? If it wasn't just developed to, like, feed people pills and like put them in school and stuff, but like people have been this way like forever.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're dysfunctional people. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I find that interesting. So we met each other in the Fringe, and you were doing a stand-up night, but that wasn't your main show. So from what I understand, you were doing you had a co-performer. What was the name of your show?
Thank you. It was called Bent Double, and it was a split bill with a dear friend of mine and comedian colleague John Pape. And it was our first time at the Fringe, so we were doing a split bill. So essentially half an hour each of stand-up, sharing an hour. And it's a good way of, it's quite a lot to go and do a full show yourself. So it's a good way of testing the water, also get to know the Edinburgh Fringe, because as I say, it's the first time I've been as a performer. Have been as a punter before. It's just sort of get to feel how the festival is as a performer with someone also like John, who is a really good supportive colleague as well.
So as someone who is very caring and who is a people pleaser, what advice would you give to a comedian who's doing the Ed Fringe for the first time next year?
So you do need to be resilient. It's a really difficult environment. Like I'm a city person. I'm naturally drawn to quite chaotic environments, as I've talked about. A&E, etc. But I'd say the Edinburgh Fringe takes it to the next level. And for me, it was really important that I had my own space, and now not everyone can afford it because, of course, the expense of staying up there is huge.
Yeah.
But it was really important that I have, even if it's a small, quiet space of your own. So I had like a small apartment that I could get away from and be quiet in. So getting away from things, and also sort of really taking. There is a temptation to want to gig, because you could gig. In theory, you could gig at the Fringe like as many times a day as you could possibly wish, but I had to sort of limit myself because I did realise that I needed some time away. Like I went for a walk up the Arthur's Seat, etc., and that was really important to me, just to get away from things for a little bit, to get some headspace, because it is probably the most intense environment that I've ever put myself in.
Yes, it's a bit of a double-edged blade, isn't it? Because it's very uplifting and there's so much juice, to get, but at the same time it's quite draining. A bit like being an orange instead of drinking it.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And obviously, like, we were flyering for our show, and then that's comes with its own set of troubles, difficulties. Unfortunately, having been a Jehovah's Witness before, I was quite used to giving people pamphlets and like encouraging them to come to things they don't want to come to. So I found my skill.
Fantastic. So yeah, I mean, just before I get into the Jehovah's Witness question, because I was really curious to go there, but what are you going to be up to later this year? Is there any shows we can come see you in, or have you got a comedy club maybe that you could plug?
So I do run an infrequent comedy night, so it's about roughly once every quarter. So we'll be doing an autumn show, it will probably be early November time. That's Not Comedies at Not Knock on Instagram, with a dear colleague of mine, Gracie Bartines. So we run that. I'm doing Soho Theatre Comedy Labs, so I'll be doing a small show in early December, showcasing some character work that I'm doing with them. And I'm currently writing lots, so I'll be gigging in open mic across London trying to test new material.
We'll find you in a basement soon.
Yeah, and that's not just comedy.
So, like, I was really curious to get some of your wisdom and advice. If there are young men out there, and women as well, who, if you're queer, even if you deny it and people tell you it's wrong, like I experienced this in Australia very much, and they're in a strict religious environment which kind of like denies that part of their identity, what advice would you give to those people watching?
For me, the religion that I was brought up in, I was afraid of the world. So we were taught that anyone who's not a Jehovah's Witness is your enemy. So I was afraid of the world. For me, the advice would be to seek out people who are similar to yourself, and they're not that bad. They're good people, and don't be afraid, because these people are good and they will help you. I came out via the internet. I found a small support group of ex-Jehovah's Witness gays. It was like an online group. And I sort of suddenly realised that I wasn't alone. Yeah. It was amazing to find people that come from a similar background, who'd had similar experiences, and also that they weren't bad. There's a great organisation called Faith to Faithless, and they don't just support Jehovah's Witnesses, they support people who come from orthodox religions as well, like Judaism, Muslim, and they've got a forum on all of the social platforms. Seek out people within that organisation, because it's really nice to find a kindred spirit and to find people that have been through similar things to yourself.
Absolutely. It's so important to find a community that understands the struggle that you faced, but it can also give you like the practical guidance on, what does my identity mean? How do I interface with society? What does it mean for me and my family?
Yeah, a lot of, certainly the religion I was brought up in meant that I was shunned by all of my family, and still am. So having that community of people who become your family, and your friends become your family, and you realise that actually life is brighter and better, maybe life is brighter and better even despite the struggles that you've had. It can be good.
Yes. Oh, that's such a hopeful message to end on.
Thank you. Thank you so much
Chris,
for having me.
You're gorgeous, and I wish you all the luck in the world for your shows in December.
Thank you so much.
I'm Dr. Audrey Tang, a chartered psychologist, and on my show Mental Health Matters, we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being with the experts. So join us at 8 a.m. PST on Thursdays on the Fresh Takes channel, because mental health matters on E360 TV.
Okay, so here to finish the episode, we've got a very special guest. It is the founding member of the Energy Exchange, CIC. That's right. It's an organization which invites everyday people to enjoy good, sober fun. Workshops, special events, bringing people together. And today we're going to be hearing from Kyle himself with a message of hope and a story about his journey to recovery. Let's hear it for Kyle. Welcome, Kyle. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So we've been chatting in the last couple of weeks, and I've been learning about the Energy Exchange. I think it's a fantastic project, and as someone who really enjoys sober events and can see the value of that to society, but also entertainment, you know, I love this. So what is the Energy Exchange? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, the Energy Exchange, I've just set up in the last few months, and it's a CIC, so social enterprise, and I'm looking to provide a platform for people to come and perform sober, you know, in an alcohol-free environment, to express themselves through poetry, comedy, music, you know, however they feel comfortable to express themselves. There is actually a few niches to it, you know. The long-term vision, I want to open a temperance bar in central London or Shoreditch. I'm not sure what area yet. Anywhere would be, you know, fantastic in London, because there's loads of bars, right? There's so many bars in London, but I've never really found anywhere that's like a sober space for people to hang out, like a sober clubhouse. That's the vision, you know. That's like the long-term vision. Obviously, the sober performance space. That's what I'm kind of doing now, to incorporate into the space when that becomes available. And also like positive psychology workshops and health and well-being workshops for people to reach their potential in life, you know.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've spoken a little bit about positive psychology. You did like a workshop yourself. What's that like, and what is positive psychology?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It's changed my life really, my whole perception of life. Because what happened to me was, I'm coming up for 2 years clean and sober.
Well done.
And thank you. I was attempting to get sober lots of my life for like 8 years. Okay. And I finally got sober, but it was like, with adverse childhood experiences, repressed sexuality, they were holding me back from staying sober. And then I'd get sober, I'd kind of get comfortable in things, and then I'd be like, what's next? There's something else, there's something more to life than just being sober and, you know, whatever. Like, and I'm not cut out for like 9 to 5 jobs. It's just not me. I'm like, I don't like authority. I'm quite defiant, you know. And all them things are like strengths, you know, if you use them as a means to do good, you know. So positive psychology really changed. I went on this course. I got offered the place on this course, a 12-week course. It was fantastic. It's all about like taking action now. Like, what can you do now with what you've got, right? Like other therapies, and I'm not knocking them because I do other therapies. It's kind of like, what went wrong in the past? It's like, a lot went wrong in the past.
Yes.
But what can I do about it now, right? And it's like, I just found empowerment through. That's what happened. I've gained like resilience and loads of strength through what happened. You know, it might not have been great, but I've got lots of strengths which I can use to my ability now, to good use now, right?
So, you know, I wanted to unpack some of the things you were talking about there. So, like, I relate to you on the thing about, like, suppressed homosexuality. So, like, in Australia, it's quite a combative environment, very masculine. Was it like that for you here in the UK?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and my dad, so there was 5 men in the house, and my mother, my wee mum, you know, she had to look after 5 guys, right? It was like, I guess it was like a kind of masculine household. My dad's from Glasgow, my mum's from just outside Glasgow. They moved down to Corby town. Corby's like a little steel town. They call it Little Scotland, Little Glasgow, you know. It's a strange place. It's like... You know, it's where I'm from, and I love, you know, the person that's made me, I guess, until I outgrew it. And I felt, you know, Small Town Boy, the song Small Town Boy, I had to get out of Corby to, like, express myself. I felt like just too trapped in Corby, you know, and I ran away to London. And
when you were there living in this environment with, I guess, a lot of like on the border, right, between Scotland and England, and you've got like quite a Celtic influence, very masculine and things like, and in terms of being able to publicly say you're gay and you're happy and you're content and you've got a partner, like how was the journey from there to now?
it was really tough, you know, like we talk about coming out, like there's a National Coming Out Day, but you can come out whenever you want, and you don't have to come out, but there's a freedom in it. And you know, I find the hardest person to come out to is myself. Looking back now, I don't know what I was so scared about. Like, typically, I get always the assumption by straight people and gay people is, oh, you don't seem gay. Like, in one day, I had this straight guy say, you don't strike me as a gay man. And then in the same day, one gay man said, you don't strike me as a gay man. I'm like, I can't win here, you know, it's like, I can't win. And I took that sensitively, I took that to heart. And I thought, you know what, people are allowed to make assumptions. If they see me as a straight man, like, cool. Like, yeah, but it was tough. There was a lot of escapism, there was a lot of drug use, alcohol, like, why wouldn't you drink? Why wouldn't you use drugs if you felt so repressed? Like, I can't express myself. It was a lonely place. I remember just towards the end of my using was on my own. It wasn't even with, you know, because a lot of people use drugs in like the chemsex scene and to sleep with men, and in the end it was just me and the drugs, you know, and my own head. And it was like, I remember I stayed up for 1 week, no sleep for 1 week. And you know, I wrote some poetry recently, and it's called Death by Meth, and it says in it something like, if the meth doesn't kill you, the people following you will. And the joke is, no one's following me, but I think they are, right? Like, there was a lot of paranoid delusions, and the armed police were after me, and they could never get me because they weren't after me, right? But I never forget how it was in them like last days, just under 2 years ago. Myself, very lonely, psychotic, couldn't sleep, and it's good to be out of that, and it's good to not hide.
So, like, for the energy exchange, is it aimed for gay people, or is it aimed like on the other side for straight people? Where do you sit? Who do you want to come?
It's all inclusive, you know. It's all inclusive. I really do respect queer-led organisations, and it's important for people to have a safe space to express themselves. But one thing I learned in positive psychology is authentic leadership, and authenticity is, I think, the highest frequency, you know, above love and everything is authenticity. And in my heart, I'm more inclusive, and I think it's important to unite everyone so we can share our own backgrounds and our own beliefs and non-beliefs and genders and non-genders, and together, like, all inclusive, you know.
Okay, so people who want to grow, people who are straight and queer and everywhere in between, to come along to enjoy sober events. And what kind of things would we experience at the event?
So far I've put on 2 open mic nights, and they've just been a mixture of talent, you know, you know, music to comedy, spoken word, poetry, and I emceed both the events, and I've not performed yet, but I'm going to perform at my next event. I'm going to read some of my poetry, and
excellent.
Yeah, so the next one is going to be a Halloween party, sober Halloween open mic, maybe with a disco afterwards, a bit of thriller, you know. And
so if people did want to get in contact with you and discuss like contributing towards founding such a venue, like how should they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. We're on Instagram. That's the Energy Exchange, exchange without the E. We have a Facebook page. We also have a website. That's www.theenergyexchangecic.com. Yeah, they're the platforms we've got going.
Fantastic. And I understand that you've got people like involved. We're not going to name them, but like kind of like a career sponsor, someone who's very good at networking. I've met him as well, and he's seeking out also funding from, I would say, like philanthropic international individuals. So there's a bit of a structure behind you as well, which I find really cool. I would love to contribute to your project, and I can't wait to come to the gig in October.
Fantastic. Thank you so
much. Thanks for coming on the show, Charles.
Thanks for having me.
This has been such a fantastic episode of Comedians and our special guest. Well, let's thank Rabiah Coon, Chris Ford, and Kyle Hall. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of The Groovie Bunch. And I'm your host, Thomas W. Kelly, and you have been clucking fabulous. Ciao, ciao.